What's happening, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today, I have a very special guest, Kevin, coming on the channel. And Kevin was able to take course careers and land a tech sales job in a pretty short period of time. We're going to talk about Kevin's backstory, and we're going to talk about, how he discovered tech sales, how he, landed the job, and his tips for how you can land a job as well. So, Kevin, thank you so much for coming on the channel. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Okay, so I like to tell this in, story format, kind of going back to the beginning before the tech sales even happened. Maybe you didn't even know tech sales existed,
Mhm.
back in that time, right? So tell me, before you're doing tech sales, what careers were you working? What's your educational background? And also if you want to share any personal stuff as well, just kind of like your personal life too.
Yeah, will do. So when I graduated high school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I kind of knew I didn't see college in my future. Just primarily because I knew my parents and we had never thought about that, so we never saved up any kind of money for that or anything. But it was more so because I always looked at my parents as kind of the models of what could be done. And granted, it was a different time, but I still kind of looked to that. And so for me, my dad, he was right out of high school, he was in the Marine Corps, served for 13 years, goes out of the Marine Corps, goes straight to the post office, starts off as a janitor. And by the time he retired, he was the head like engineer there, like fixing the big machines.
Hmm.
And all that was from me. And I would ask him about that. I said, "How did you move up and stuff?" And he said, I just found out what I needed to know to get to next level job. And then I learned that and then got that job. And then once I was at that job, I learned more. And so he stayed at the post office his whole career. And my mom was complete opposite. She started out as, I believe, a receptionist at a company, and she kind of like leapfrogged. So she would start as a receptionist, then she might be like an assistant, then she might be an executive assistant, and she worked her way up to where by the time she retired, she was the HR director for a really big company. So I had both of these models of people who had no college degree, and one through pure experience and one through experience with the intent of like learning the thing I need to learn to get to the next level. And so that was kind of my role model. So for me, and because I didn't know what I wanted to do, I didn't want to just waste time and money in college just, for no reason. So I just kind of started working right out of high school. And at first, obviously, they were, regular, like, kind of jobs you'd expect, like pizza delivery and all that kind of stuff. But one of my early jobs was like customer service. And then kind of like early 20s, I worked at this really small notary company, mobile notary company, where they find notaries for different signings. And the two guys that ran it, that owned it, really took a liking to me. And so they kind of encouraged me to go get a notary license so I could make some extra money doing that on the side. And because it was such a small company, we had a person that was in charge of accounts payable, receivable, and payroll. And she was about to be leaving on maternity leave in a couple months. And so rather than hiring an outside person, they said, Kevin seems to be a fast learner. Do you think you could teach Kevin how to do what you do while you're gone? And so she did. And that's how I kind of fell into accounting. No degree or training, just on the job kind of learning. And then she never came back. So I just ended up being the AP, AR, and payroll person for this small company for a couple years until I was recruited by a really big medical company to just be their accounts payable person. So now I'm just doing one singular thing of what I was doing, but on a much bigger scale. And so I got to kind of see, okay, I went from like a small, kind of very independent mom and pop company to now I'm working for a really big company and getting to kind of see the differences and kind of feel what I like and what I don't like.
By the way, guys, if you're wondering what, SDR, BDR, tech sales, software sales, et cetera, any of those things is, and you're curious about, what it is, how much it pays, what you'd be doing on a day-to-day basis, and how to get into it, there's a free training down in the description and the pinned comment below. So check that out.
And so I was there for 7 years. And then after that, shortly after that, I found my way into the company I was at for 10 years. I'm kind of a person that once I get in a company and I like their their vibe and I like their structure and I like the people, I will stay for as long as I feel I'm needed or wanted. So I was at this company for 10 years. It was a nonprofit organization. It basically dealt with senior living communities across Southern California. And
Hmm.
so for the first 7 years, I was just their accounts payable person. And then I started to have some issues with a new manager that came into that department. And so I'm very much a person that will speak my mind. So I kind of went to the HR director and said, I don't think I can be here anymore because I can't work under someone like this. And it was basically just, without going into too much detail, it was just someone who liked to micromanage and nitpick everything. And that's not
Hmm.
me. That's not what I enjoy. I just like, you give me my tasks, you trust me to do my tasks, and I'll get
Hmm.
my tasks done. If I mess anything up, I'll take the blame for it. But that's just kind of how I am. So going through all that, both the HR director and the CEO did not want to lose me. So they said, let's don't leave. Let's see if we can find a position for you somewhere else in the company or whatever. And then so eventually what they ended up doing is they ended up creating a position for me. So this all happened, by the way, just I think it was December of 2019. So it was just a few months before COVID hit.
Hmm.
So uh, by January, they're saying, okay, we've created a new position for you. It doesn't start until July because at that particular job, the fiscal year was June to July. So I said, okay, I can wait 6 months. And then so by March, we were all working from home. And so then it kind of no the micromanaging really didn't affect me that much anymore because she wasn't there to micromanage me as much anymore. So it was kind of had I known, I might not have ever left, but I'm glad I did. And so, starting July for the next 3 years, so I was there a total of 10 years. For the next 3 years, I was their recruiting and retention coordinator. So, like I said, because we had multiple communities, it was a large variety of different jobs that I would be either recruiting for or with new people who had just started, kind of touching base with them on their first month, their second month, third month, making sure they felt like they were getting the training they needed, making sure they were getting any issues addressed by their superior or whoever and kind of just doing that. So I was recruiting for anything from like nurses to servers, kitchen staff, administrative positions, all types of positions. So it was a really good like kind of learning experience for me. And one of the reasons why they had kind of decided that this would be a good position for me is because they said, we know you're really good with numbers and we know you're like that, but we can also tell you seem to be more of a people person and you have no real engagement with people in your accounting job, except for when people are calling about, why their payment hasn't come through yet or whatever. So
Hmm.
for 3 years, I was just doing that and I really did enjoy it. But and I kind of knew going in, I said, because it was a brand new position that was created for me, I knew that there was a possibility that if anything financially was affecting the company in the negative way, I was probably going to be one of the people let go. And that's kind of what happened with at the time, interest rates were really bad for businesses and stuff like that, especially in the industry we're in. So they had to let a couple people go, and I was one of the people they let go. They gave me plenty of notice, though. They gave me a lot of warning about it. So I did appreciate that. And then I was kind of at a point where I was like, okay, so what do I do now? I don't know. Do I go back to accounting? Do I try to continue doing this, or do I just do something completely different? And so for a while, I would go searching on, the regular sites, LinkedIn, Indeed, all those things, looking for jobs in either of those categories. And either I wasn't finding things that were remote, or the ones that I were finding was remote. The pay was it was a really big pay cut to what I was making already. Um, so I was kind of like, well, maybe this isn't what I'm supposed to do. Maybe I'm supposed to do something else. And so I was just kind of like wandering for a while and really not knowing what to do. And I do pray. I do believe in God. So I would start praying for guidance and to be led to what I should be doing or whatever. And so it was after a particular prayer where I was really like just struggling with what to do. Not to mention my wife is still working, and so she's basically covering us the entire time that I'm like struggling to find something. And so, and my wife, God bless her soul too, because she was very clear. She was like, look, I don't want you to take something just to take something because we need the money. You're getting unemployment right now, and that's
Hmm.
enough to cover us along with what I make. So don't just jump into anything. Make sure it's something you think you'll like. So that was a
Hmm.
really big blessing. So after that was said and I had this prayer, I'm on YouTube and I see a video from Myron Golden, and some people know him, but he's a black entrepreneur, and he often talks about business and the Bible, and he kind of mixes them together
Hmm.
in ways that really make sense. And so he was kind of talking about how a lot of the most successful entrepreneurs or business people in the world started out or in some way, shape, or form have sales experience. And so I was like, okay, that's interesting. And then I kind of put it in the back of my head and I didn't think much about it. So then I just started saying, okay, well, let me go look for schools where I could maybe finish in a kind of quick amount of time, get a certificate or something that can then propel me to get a remote job, because that was one of my main things, is because I had been remote for 3 years prior. So I was like, I don't want to go back to an office. So I wanted something that was remote and something that paid at least what I was making, if not more. That I didn't have a high bar really. And it was not like I was making six figures where I was working. So I just wanted that. That was my main thing.
Hmm.
And so it was either like coding in some way, shape, or form, like, front end development or back end development, um, or tech sales. And so what happened is I had originally gotten interested in coding because I was like, well, I'm a creative person. I like to be creative. That might be a cool thing to do, like. And so I found a course from another company, but while I was researching it, I was doing my due diligence. I was going on all these different videos, looking at people reviewing different schools, different certificates, saw some of your videos about certain places.
Hmm.
And so I was like, okay, well, I see some people talking about this one coding place. Let me go try this. And while I'm sure if you're either already like just a savant when it comes to coding, or if it comes really naturally to you, or anything like that, I would imagine that for most people who get into coding, I would imagine it takes a bit of time to get to a point where you actually feel like you're able to use your creativity. Because at first it just feels like I'm just doing the same thing over and over, just trying to make this thing look this way. So I started that, and sadly, when I say sadly, only because I hate not finishing things I start, but I did quit that one about halfway through, mainly because we had gotten to an assignment and I was having trouble completing the assignment. So I would reach out to them and say, hey, I need assistance with this. I need assistance with this. And the responses I got back were very short and not helpful at all. So after about three attempts to get help with just completing this one assignment that was supposed on their timeline was supposed to take me 2 days to do, we were now at like over a week. And I'm like, okay. So I got just frustrated. I said, you know what? I'm done. And
Hmm.
I was hesitant to tell my wife because I was like, she knows I spent money on this thing, and here we go. And then in the process of finding this, I found a lot of people when I would search videos for, certificates and stuff like that, remote jobs. A lot of ones came up for tech sales and course careers. And I said, okay, why do I keep seeing this pop up? I'm not searching for this. Why does this keep popping up? And all these people that are talking about make it sound like it's really great though. So again, I'm hearing tech, so I'm thinking, no, I'm done with tech. So but finally a friend of mine said, oh, you should check out this one video. And it was this guy named Dre, uh, Cut the Tech channel, and he was talking about tech sales and how he started course careers. And his story resonated with me because he was kind of in a similar position. We're close in age, both got families, and there was a lot of similarities in our stories. So I said, well, if he can do it, maybe I can do it. I mean, I've never done sales before, but I mean, if they teach you everything you can learn, then maybe this is something I can do. So I had just kind of like said, well, let me see. I don't want to waste any time. Let me see about it. So I took the free like introductory course to it that kind of explains a little bit about what that job entails and what your typical day looks like and all that kind of stuff. So it kind of gave me some background information that I did not have to kind of let me know, okay, well, that doesn't sound too hard. Sounds like something I could do. And there's some aspects of this job, if I'm understanding correctly, that I kind of I kind of did with my other job, just in a just a different aspect. So I was like, okay, I think I can do this. And so I signed up right away, and then I saw, because I was so frustrated with the experience of the last class. I said, I want to make sure that if I ever feel like I'm stuck or I have a question or anything like that, that I have the help I need. And so I just happened to see that they had coaches available. And so the coach, Dre, was having what he called a cohort, which was like a small group class that met once a week while you're taking the course to kind of assist you along the way. And I
Hmm.
said, oh, that's perfect, because that will not only hold me accountable, but again, it'll be that resource that I need. If I'm confused on something
Yeah.
or anything like that, I have someone to go to. And
Yeah,
so
that's
that,
super underrated too. Like the social aspect is super underrated. It's like if you think about it, back through your life, everything you've ever gotten good at, you probably did it in groups of people,
yes,
right? Like whether
100%.
you got good at playing piano or got good in accounting, got good at, playing a sport or like anything. It's the social aspect is super underrated. It's so hard to get good at something just doing it on your own or even just like
Yeah.
taking a course where you're the only one taking the course or
Yeah.
just taking it alone online. It's really hard. So yeah, that's what I always tell people is like that's really underrated to have like a mentor there, also to have like other people, peers that are going through the same thing you're going. It's the emotional aspect. It makes it so much easier to get results. And that's one of the reasons why Course Careers gets such good results is because they set that up. So
Yeah,
yeah.
100%, 100%. I can't say enough about them and Andre and everybody there, because yeah, it was extremely helpful to me. And the only downside to it was when I looked at the schedule, I said, okay, well, there's a cohort starting tomorrow, or I have to wait like I think it was like 3 weeks or 4 weeks, whatever it was. And I said, well, I don't want to wait. So, and this was, by the way, this was right around Thanksgiving time. So I said, I want to be done. I want to finish before the end of this year. And I think if I had waited for the other one, I wouldn't have finished until early the following year. So I signed up, and then I get my notification that says, okay, great, you're signed up. Make sure you finish the first phase of the course before you join the call. And I was like, oh, well, I haven't even looked at the course. Let me see how much I'm in store for. So it wasn't that bad. Luckily, the first phase was like probably one of the easier ones to get through quickly. So I got through all that and showed up for the first cohort, and was hooked right away. His approach, his especially with the mental, as far as like, why are you taking this course? What does it mean to you? What are you hoping to get out of it? All these things that, again, just referring back to the other class that I took, is just like there was none of that. It was just, and it was very much like you were saying, it was just you felt alone. And
Hmm.
so it was not it was totally different vibes with this one versus the other one. So we start off, and the other added benefit, especially with this type of course with tech sales, is the beauty of having a small group was we got to do role play together, and we got to mix it up, and we got to hear other people's approaches, and and help give feedback for other people. So it was really like a community feel, which I think just helped it easily go through it. um so yeah, we did that, and then it was built to be a course that paced you to where you were taking your final after the fifth week. And so the sixth week was just kind of more like a celebration, and then also just a little bit more about like, okay, now let's talk about looking for a job. So so yeah, we were taking the final within 5 weeks. There was some people in our class that waited, and to be honest, I don't know if they ever actually did take it, because that was my one thing was, if I'm going to spend money on this again, I'm not quitting. I'm seeing
Hmm.
this through. And so me and a couple other people that I know, we took it, and we all passed it, and we all got to celebrate in that final class. And then it was that, like, then as Dre says, now it's time to do the real work. Now it's time to actually find the job and get the job.
Hmm.
And that in itself was, I think, the biggest takeaway from that was that, because everything I learned was extremely helpful already in the job I have now. But the aspect of how to find and get the job, I'm like, I will take this with me forever. Even if it's not a tech sales job, like any job, I'm like, this is very helpful. And
Hmm.
and this does work because it worked for me. And I thought, Well, yeah, you say this works, but but I really don't have a degree. I really don't have previous experience. I don't know.
Hmm.
And no, it worked. Like you just have to put in the work. That's really what it
Yeah.
is.
Do you want to give a little bit of details on kind of how they instruct you to find a job? Because yeah, Troy, me, like some of the other career coaches that I partner with, we all kind of like brainstorm on how to get people jobs, in the
Yeah.
simplest and easiest and quickest way possible. So yeah, we've tried like a lot of different things. So yeah, if you could maybe get into that, not too into detail, but just a little bit.
For me, it was a few things. One, it was tailoring your resume to the job you're going for, and within that, it was even more so not just what you're going for, but like for me personally, like I said, I didn't have any previous experience, but when we were going over the last job I had, which was recruiting and retention, and I'm saying, well, I did this and this and that. He's like, okay, so you searched for people, like, and you found people that would be a good fit. He's all, that's prospecting. Like he was putting it in terms
Yes.
that I could understand and make sense. He's like,
Yeah.
you're doing outreach. Okay, that's outreach, that's cold calling, whatever. So he's like, all these different things were making sense. He's all, we just need to reword it in a way that makes it
Yeah.
clear on your resume. And then and outside from that, the only other thing I'll say that I felt was a really big helpful tip. So if anyone hears this and uses it, I hope it helps you too. Is don't apply like on LinkedIn or Indeed or anything like that. So if you see their post there that they're hiring, try to find try to go to their website and apply directly on their website. That was
Hmm.
another big thing that I felt was very helpful and helps stand out. And and I think follow up is really important too. Like follow up again, especially with tech sales. Dre was very big on in order to get the job, you kind of have to do the job to get the job. So you have to
Hmm. Hmm.
prospect, you have to look for companies that are your ideal companies you like to work for.
Hmm.
And then you have to reach out to them. That's sending them your resume, sending them your cover letter. And then you have to follow up. You have to call them up and
Yeah.
say, hey, just want to make sure my resume got in the right hands, blah, blah, blah. And so that's what I did. And so for I'm trying to think about how long it was because the only reason the timeline is a little off to me is because literally there was about a 1 month period where my wife had a bunch. This was like right between, like a little bit before Christmas and then into mid January. They had she had a bunch of family from her. She had a bunch of family come out and stay with us, and so every room people were sleeping in, including this room, which is my office. So I wasn't able to really access, searching for jobs during that month period. So I kind of finished the course, and then basically 3 days, I think, after I finished the course, is when family started showing up. So I kind of had to put everything on hold. I mean, I think I was still able to update my resume, but that was about it. And then so once mid-January came, that's when I was able to finally start searching. And then so I started searching mid-January, and I think and Dre said this great thing too that really was helpful too. He said there's either two problems people run into. He's all, if you're getting uh, if you're getting a lot of interviews but you're not like getting a lot of offers, there's something you're doing in the interviews that you need to work on, or you need to work on your presentation skills or whatever. So, but if you're not even getting interviews, he's all, it's something about your resume.
Hmm.
So that was helpful to me because after the first 2 or 3 weeks, I hit him up, which was another reason why so glad I did the cohort because I had access to him whenever I needed to. I said, hey, I've sent at that point, I don't know how many I'd sent out, but I'd sent out quite a few resumes at that point, and not a single bite. So he said, okay, let's take a look at your resume, and we tweaked that. And then he said, you know what? While we're at it, let's take a look at your LinkedIn. And we looked at my LinkedIn. He's like, let's tweak this. And so we did a couple tweaks, and then after that, started resending out to different companies. And then I think within a week after doing that, I got my first interview.
Awesome.
I didn't get it because I bombed on something that I should have known better, which is just in case anyone ever gets this, don't fall for this trap. Like, tell us a little bit about yourself. And it doesn't have to be about your past jobs, just anything. Well, I literally fell into the trap. I was telling them about my personal life, and I was like, they don't want to hear. I mean, they don't want to hear that I was in baseball in high school, and they don't care about that
Uh,
stuff. So, I didn't make anything relevant to what I was doing, but I learned from that very quickly because I think that was the only interview I didn't. Yeah, that was the only interview I got one and done.
got
And
it.
then after that, like I said, I think I got 2 or 3 more interviews within the next couple weeks. And all of them went to 2 interviews, including the one I have, the job I got now. That actually ended up going to 3 interviews and uh, they wanted me to send them an email as if I was cold emailing them, basically. Like, they were basically like, you can pretend we are any company you want, whatever, it doesn't matter. Just pretend you're a company and you're trying to pitch our services to them.
Hmm.
So I kind of just did what the course taught me on how to structure, a cold email and wrote it out, and they really responded well to it. So I got the offer like maybe a week after that.
Awesome. Awesome. So
Yeah.
how long after you finished the course were you able to get that first offer?
So I got my offer mid March, but I didn't start. But I finished the course mid December, but I didn't start looking until mid January. So basically 2 months.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's amazing. Yeah, and and especially in this economy, and I didn't want to interrupt you before, but um, you know, Troy, for instance, my business partner Troy, he on the website he says like software development, it's hard to get a job.
Mhm.
Like he puts it right on the website. It's like, hey, we have a course for this, but it's really hard to get a job. It's very competitive because
Yeah.
they've been advertising, software development very hard online now for over 10 years. And there
Yeah.
used to be a massive shortage, but now that they've advertised it so hard for over 10 years, there's really not anymore. Now, with that being said, if you're really good at software development, there's still a massive amount of demand. And then there's certain subtypes like cloud and stuff like that where there's a lot of demand. But it's definitely not this thing where you can study coding for a few months and get a job like it used
Yeah.
to be, maybe 5 years ago, but definitely like 10 years ago or so. It used to be like that, but it's not like that anymore.
And that was
Um,
that I'm glad you said that, because there's one thing that kept happening to me throughout my life. And so if anyone can relate to this, believe me, I understand. I kept feeling like, this happened with examples of like uh Kindle Direct Publishing, Amazon FBA. There's a bunch of things I've tried to do in the past, and for every single one of them, it was like I was doing everything right, but I was just a little bit behind on the times. Like if I had just
hmm,
started 2 years ago, I would have been successful. So with what you're saying about the software development, the same thing. I was like, man, it seems like right around the pandemic, 2020, 2021 is kind of when it kind of stopped the
hmm,
peak, and then everything kind of slowly started to go down. And I was like, man, if I
yeah,
had just known about this, then maybe I could have done it. Maybe I would have been successful. But yeah, it was like at that point, I was like, well, and so when it came to tech sales, I was just like, okay, well, sales has been around forever in some way, shape, or
yeah.
form. And and tech is continuously, growing. So I was like, this might not be
Hmm.
a good idea to think in long term. And I'm glad.
Yeah. I actually just did a video. I love how you said has been around forever. I actually just did a video on careers that were really good in ancient Rome that are still good now.
Oh yeah.
So it's not out yet. We're editing it right
Oh,
now.
okay.
But yeah, I was really excited to make that video because it just kind of shows like there's certain careers that have been really good for thousands of years. They're probably going to be really good for thousands of years in the future. And then there's some careers that completely died,
Yeah.
and just like what was the reason this career, stayed around for a very long time, and what was the reason this career died in a couple hundred years?
Yeah.
And just kind of like breaking that down. And yeah, like sales, definitely, it's always going to be around. Same thing with marketing. Marketing is always going to be around. There were people that would read out, scrolls because most people were illiterate back then. They couldn't
Mhm.
read, so there were people that would go and read out scrolls in the central markets, and that was
Oh
kind of like
wow.
marketers, right?
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
like they would
100%.
read stuff like, or you could say it's maybe the news a little bit, but there
Oh yeah.
kind of a lot of overlap there. So yeah, there's certain skills that, and then, another thing about the sales skill set, and this is something you touched on briefly. Even if you end up not doing sales forever, the
Hmm.
skills you learn in sales are going to be useful no matter what you do in the future. So I don't think I've ever met someone who's like, you know what, I regret that sales job. Even if
Right.
they ended up not doing it, they were like, I actually learned so much from that sales job. I think it was amazing.
Right.
experience, even if they ended up doing something else, starting their own business or just going into a totally different career. Sales is going to be extremely helpful. So I'm kind of glad you touched on that too. Um, and okay, so 2 months, got the job. Everyone wants to know if you're comfortable, whatever you're
Mhm.
comfortable saying.
Okay.
Everyone always wonders this in the videos. How much compensation wise was that first job?
So yeah, I won't give specifics, but I'll give ranges. So my base pay was over 55, and with compensation or with commission and bonuses and stuff like that, it's supposed to be over 70.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's not bad for like a first job.
No.
Yeah, just getting your foot in
Like
the
I
door.
said, the base alone was pretty much what I was making at my last job. So now you're taking that and and saying, but now I can actually get more than that though, like with commissions and stuff. I'm go, oh, okay, done.
What tips do you have for people who are trying to land a tech sales job?
Well, aside from the ones about actually the ones I already mentioned about like with your resume and following up and stuff like that, I would say be persistent, like really don't give up because trust me, I questioned it a couple times in the beginning when I was like, I'm not getting any responses and I'm doing everything that so I would just say, be persistent, like Coach Dre would say, do the job to get the job. So put in the hours,
Hmm.
if you're just taking 5 minutes a day to do a quick search and see what's there, you're probably gonna it's probably gonna be a while before you find something. And just, kind of like have that mentality that like I know how to do this job. Like the one thing I think that Dre had kind of mentioned early on, and I think in that first meeting that kind of really rang out to me was like you have to kind of come in with the mindset of like I already know how to do this job. I just need to show you that I know how to do this job. But some people have this mentality of like I need to convince myself that I need to know how to do this job. It's like that if you're trying to convince yourself, you're gonna struggle. Like you
Hmm.
need to know I can do this job. Just let me show you I can do this job. And so
Yeah.
I would say, so I guess you could call it confidence, but it really is just like a determination of like knowing, like, did you really like put in the hours of study? Did you really, you know, digest what you learned? Did you really practice what you were being told to practice? And then, like I said, and just in terms of like when you're actually doing your job search, are you doing everything that they're telling you to do to try and get a job fast? Again, especially, and I think because for me, my biggest not regret, but issue is that I knew that there was people that showed up on that first call that we never saw again. And that really bummed me out. And I don't know why it bummed me out, but I think it was just because everyone was talking about their why and everybody seemed like they had a very good why. And then when they didn't show up, I was like, wow, like I thought for sure everybody's why would keep them coming back. So I don't know if it was because maybe, and I don't know this personally, I'm just saying, I'm guessing maybe they had safety nets that they could just go, and fall back on them. For me at the time, I really didn't have one. I was like, my unemployment's ending soon. I need,
Hmm.
I need to find something. So I was like, I'm going to make it not my, like my goal, but just like my mission, like I'm going to do this and I'm not going to stop. So if my outreach was, 10 companies a day or 20 companies a day, well, then I'm going to up it to 30 or 40, whatever I got to do. I'm going to do what I have to do to get the job done. And that's kind of, in some way, shape, or form, that's kind of the mentality you need to be in sales is like, I'm going to do what I need to do to get the job done. I'm going to do what I got to do
Hmm.
to not necessarily make the sale, but at least make sure that the person knows how we can help them. And then it's up to them if they want to, take that or not.
Cool. I know you said you discovered it from Myron Golden, right? And he kind of teaches like, okay, he teaches people, just success in general, but a lot of the stuff he teaches is like starting your own business. So
Right.
if you end up starting your own business in the future, do you think these skills that you're getting paid to learn, right? You're getting paid to learn in-demand skills.
Yeah.
Do you think these skills are going to help you with that?
1,000%. a thousand
Yeah.
percent. Like I said, he had already said he had said it, and then after he had said it, like most business professionals or entrepreneurs have sales experience in their past. But then after he said it, I kind of just went on my own hunt and I said, you know what? With the exception of a few people that were like tech people, like, Jeff Bezos built Amazon, with the exception of people like that, I was like, a whole lot of them did start off, or not start off necessarily, but they have
Yeah.
sales in their background. And I
Yeah.
said, that must means something. And at the time, I didn't know what it meant, but I was like, that's something I think of importance. So I'm going to pay attention to
Hmm.
that. And then as I learned, as I went through the course, and obviously, and even now, as I've been doing my job, I'm like kind of seeing where it pays off. And what was beautiful is in one of my final interviews with this CRO, the Chief Revenue Officer, who's my boss, he kind of asked me because, I'm totally glad that he asked me this because he knew that I didn't have any actual previous sales experience, and he said, um, to be in sales, you kind of have to be a grinder sometimes, and you kind of have to be have to have a little bit of a wolf mentality. Like you have to be able to go out and get your dinner sometimes. Like, it's
Hmm.
not always it's just going to come to you. And he was asking me like, what do you think about, like, do you think that you have that? And it was weird for me because at the time I was like, I never had to have that. But because like you said, whether you did a great job or mediocre, nothing changed.
Hmm.
So I was like, I told him I was just immediately thinking about my dad and my mom and the way they came up. And I said, neither one of them could have done that if they didn't have that inside them. So I was like, if they have it, I have it. And I want to get a chance to not only show you, but prove it to myself that I have it too.
That's
And
awesome.
that's kind of what I think opened the door.
I love that mindset. That's
Yeah.
amazing. That's awesome. Okay, cool. By the way, guys, free training down in the description, the pinned comment below. It'll teach you what tech sales is, kind of what is an SDR, what is a BDR, all these acronyms, we might have said during the interview, and also, what you can expect with it and how to get into it. So check out the free training down in the description in the pinned comment below. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the channel, Kevin. Really appreciate it. Super happy you were able to land a job with Course Careers in tech sales. And yeah, I really love your background, really love your story. I think it's only up from here for you. So yeah, maybe we'll have you back on the channel here in a couple of years. We've had a lot of people that we've interviewed, and then a year later, 2 years later, they come back like, yeah, we're making six figures now. We're making that kind of thing. So it's always awesome to see the progression of people. So yeah, thanks for
I
coming on the
love
channel.
that, and
Appreciate it.
I appreciate you having me, Shane. I really do appreciate it. And yeah, hopefully, yeah, like in a year or so, I'll be able to come back and say the exact same thing.
Awesome.